spraying entire forests to then try to plant them back with natives may be more detrimental than it is beneficial, because nature will always win. Why are there so many highways without native plants planted in them? Like, why would, there's so much land that's out there that's just sitting there doing nothing. Our purpose for being on this earth is to work together and tend it and keep it healthy and maintain it as if it is our garden rather than our toilet.
Our potential, it's exponential.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode. I'm here with my brother Wayne, the Florida Permaculture Convergence 2024 coming at you. How you doing, brother?
Doing all right, Brother Jack. It's good to see you again, man. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Stoked to be back here once more. It's been 6-7 years.
Dude, yes, we met at both our first convergences, right?
Both our first convergences down in Sebastian, Florida at Kashi. So was it 6 or 7 years? Was it 7 or 8 years? Because I'm 100%.
Let's say 7.
Let's say 7. I'm thinking it was 7
I
years.
think
Yeah.
so. It was before COVID.
It was before I moved to Gainesville.
It was at Kashi. It was at a different site. This site's awesome.
Yeah, no, this is a beautiful spot.
We're in Central Florida. They'll probably hear the airboats behind us during this, but oh my goodness, dude, such a good weekend.
Yeah, this has been such a great weekend, man. I've really enjoyed it, honestly, and like sitting here under, some remnants of the traditional orchard grove and thinking about how we've used this, what was maybe intensive agriculture, this land, and brought it back to such a regenerative food forest. And you can still see, some of those remnants. I mean, yeah, there's like invasive Caesar weed around us and some crazy stuff going on, but they've done such great work with this property. I think it was called Baines Grove, I think.
Baines Grove.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was citrus.
Yep.
So they kept a lot of this citrus and under like the oaks, right? And that's what's like, it's still thriving.
Yeah, so this used to be, I guess, what's called Baines Grove back, I think over 100 years ago, and the way it's developed up until now. And so they got the property and they've started to transition it back to a more regenerative system. But, we're sitting here under some of the citrus, like I said, and it's really beautiful kind of to see how they've taken, this intensively agricultured land, or this intensively cultured land, and brought it back to such a beautiful conservation area. I mean, there's conservation area on the back there. It's really cool.
Yeah, is that part of this land?
Have you walked back there yet?
Yes.
Yeah, dude, absolutely beautiful. The wetland as it transitions back there, and like apparently there's a 10,000 acre, somebody was just saying, conservation area on the far side of it. I haven't gotten to look at the map yet to kind of see where the lines are, but that's really cool that they're able to be so close to that and be like developing a good human ecosystem in coordination with it. Like, that's so cool.
Yes, man. It's a perfect model for this type of event. Yeah, man. So how's it been? By the way, did that first convergence like touch you like it did for me?
It definitely was a confirmation because I had already kind of gotten into that. So I'd started with nursery management out of high school and did a technical degree and was working in plants. I was managing nurseries and kind of getting into it, and started to already get into native plants, right? I was already headed that way.
I remember that.
Yep, and really here for it. And then I was actually at the first convergence with an organization called the Veteran Garden Project. So we were doing food forest and garden bed installations and education for veterans and disabled veterans, and communicating or connecting with the community and building that camaraderie. So I had already kind of had the idea. And then when I came to the convergence, it was I had so much of this understanding that then went, wow, there's so much more to this, and it's so powerful. It's so impactful, and it's such a change agent. It's amazing to see how much it's grown since then even. Yeah, dude. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
Bro, 100% confirmation, you said. Because you were already kind of on the path, but this really crystallized it. Man, the people, like you said, it's building resilience, right?
Yeah, so much resilience here. And I think understanding how that community grows together is a super valuable part of this, like connecting with you again,
It's so good, man. So tell people about it. You brought loofahs. We were trading loofahs. this place is amazing, bro.
We had the trading blanket last night, and everybody brought a bunch of different items that they had either made or grown and harvested themselves and processed. So we were all trading. It was a really interesting dynamic, really cool to see David put it on here at the Permaculture Convergence. So I was excited to participate in that. So I brought a bunch of loofahs and some cassava sticks that we'd worked with at the Organic and Sustainable Agriculture Club at UF. I was the president last year, and we had a bunch of materials, cassava sticks and what have you. So we traded a bunch of those things, dried loofahs, and it was a hit for everybody. But so many people were trading really cool things, you know, gems and stones and plants and tinctures, and somebody had sourdough bread, like fresh sourdough bread they were trading. I mean, you see how these communities, if they are effectively working together and communicating well, we're communicating, you know, like, and communicating well, that the resilience and the adaptability and like the possibility to get through anything and work with each other is amazing, dude. I love it.
Yeah, me
bro.
too,
Have you seen it before? Have you done the trading blanket yet?
I haven't like really been a part of it, but I've like tuned in.
Yeah, at least checked it out.
It's cool.
Have you like, what were your thoughts on the first convergence, and how did you grow from there, and then how did that bring you to now? Like, I'd love to hear kind of how you've,
good question,
you know, just from then to now.
Yeah, so much. It's impacted me because, I mean, you get exposed to all this amazing stuff. People are into growing their own seeds for grains to eat, you know, porridge. And I'm like, wow, they grew that. You know, and learn about that. So, and just get it, you know, meet amazing people, right? On the same frequency.
Got you.
So, dude, tell me, what's been your favorite part of this event here?
Definitely my favorite part of this event here, you know, is what I've seen so far is like the collaboration between the knowledge and the experience and like the newcomers and those that are interested, and how much success people seem to have found doing this. I mean, you are, you know, doing amazing on your end with Urban Abundance, and like just seeing Urban Abundance grow has been a pleasure and a privilege, you know, being able to support that in any way I could. I mean, it's been really cool to see a lot of how this is changing in community, in economics and the financial aspect as well, and then also just in the way it's impacting so many people all around the state. Like, you know, I'm at the top of the state and you're at the bottom of the state. Everyone around here is all over the state right now. And of course, it's starting to expand outside of Florida. I think there's an organization in Georgia now as well. I imagine there's quite a few.
A convergence?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think they're in the West Coast too. But yeah, so anyways, for people who don't know, this is like a convergence around permaculture, which is, you know, this philosophy that comes out of Tasmania, Australia, which is super cool, that basically thinks through designing their land instead of, you know, exploiting it and just coming at it from like a, you know, it's like really thinking it through and then stacking functions and all these things. And I think it's extremely important to develop these philosophies into like integrate them into our own worlds.
Yeah.
Because we could use this not just in farming, all, you know?
Yeah, in all aspects of our lives. No, absolutely.
100%.
And honestly, like when I first got into it, sort of being in the science and business of it as well at the time, you know, like I said, coming right out of high school, it seemed a little like abstract and, you know, not as, what's the word I want to say? Not as, I don't know, palatable for the masses. And the more I learned about it, the more I became comfortable with it and realized that there's so many different ways to apply it. There's so many different aspects of it that are beneficial to our lives and our world as a whole. You know, not just including our food systems, but the development of our ecosystems and the surrounding ecology, and, you know, how people connect as well, which is like, you know, nobody eats over the dinner table anymore. Nobody shares food. Nobody harvests food anymore. I mean, it really is. We've become so detached from that. So it's just, there's so many parts of this that are so important. And, you know, I kind of like, I would love to kind of hear like where you felt, you know, permaculture has started to bring its way into both your business and your life, kind of just from sort of this to then, you know, or then to now, you know?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, dude.
I think it's really keeping the value system strong, right? As you grow, as you...
Wow.
right? As everything changes, like think about how much has changed since.
It's hard. It's not always easy to adapt. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, bro. It is.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
And by the way, yeah, and it's like, and people here, you know what I asked a lady earlier in the breakfast line, like, what's the best part since you've been here? And she said, oh my goodness, it's the people.
Yeah.
The people, and she was so sincere, like, oh, it's all these people who know so much, even if they know way, way, way more than me, they're not judging, and they kind of let you in, and it's okay. They're happy to share.
Yeah, because I would say it did feel kind of judgy at first as well.
Really?
You know? And I say that also coming from like hardcore native plant enthusiasts.
Okay.
Who also can be kind of judgy, right?
Yeah.
We have a term for it.
true.
Well, I'm not going to say it, but a lot of us who know, and everybody who sees this who knows, we have a term for it. So
What's that?
I'm not going to say it. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to say it. But with that said, you know, because
But people like kind of like shut people out because of where they're coming from, right?
Yes.
I think it's good to take in different philosophies.
And I think we need to have like bottom lines, you know, don't get me wrong.
What do you mean?
Like, don't screw up the ecosystem with your permaculture, or humans have to be here and integrate with the ecosystem. So there have to be systems that support those people. You know, they're required to interact. So we have to adapt one to the other. We are still here. So I think like we can't remove ourselves from the equation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's not possible. Doesn't make any sense.
Well said, bro.
Yeah.
We're a part of it, the equation.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Like, and I think both systems, and I will say, I had a perspective for a little while, and you know, I still kind of think about it sometimes that like permaculture can become anthropocentric. And I know that's a little bit controversial.
What's that mean?
Human focused, right? So like we're talking about the Anthropocene right now is what we're in right now in terms of like the extinction, you know, so anthro, and so it's anthropogenic or focused on people. And so not considering the surrounding ecosystems, the birds and the bees and the bugs and the entire ecology of how they interact.
Feed more people. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
The whole philosophy of permaculture is to grow more food, to feed more people and animals.
Yes. Well, yes. And so and like shout out to Bill Mollison and
shout out.
And the
he
other
founded permaculture. And by the way, what you're saying is important. It's like take what you can and leave the rest.
Absolutely. And work with what's already there too. Because like, for example, we come in and we buy undeveloped land, we clear it, and we plant food forests. And I'm like those things can, you know, interact as well, you know.
What do you mean?
So first of all, indigenous systems, right? And how they were able to interact with their agro ecosystems and being able to have their native ecology work with what they were trying to grow and produce and eat. And just so we're clear, the majority of the crops that they had were cultivars of native plants that were found in their regions, right? So we try to grow plants that are from completely opposite, but we do have a lot of, you know, cultivars at this point of, different breeds of like muscadine and pawpaw and mulberries and, you know, I mean, the Everglade tomatoes, they believe were traded. You know what I'm talking about? The Everglade tomatoes, yeah. So like the Everglade tomatoes, they believe were traded from Central and South America into Florida at some time back when. And that's,
hundreds
you know,
of years ago,
right?
People, you're right. A lot of the native people understand this because they follow it. A lot of this stuff, it's hard. Like we really don't know how to track it as much.
Yeah.
We sometimes say, oh, it's from there. We really don't know a lot of the time.
It's one of the ones they talk about with cannabis, actually. I always think it's really funny, is that we have absolutely no idea what the origin of cannabis really looks like because it's been so bred for so long that even like wild populations, they believe were still potentially altered. Wow. So we say
these
sativa.
natives in the forest, that's so interesting to think.
Yeah,
they say that,
right?
They say that about cannabis. They say that about yucca. A lot of these that are like so special that humans have such a close connection to. These plants are magical in so many ways, like totally.
Rice, pomegranates.
Dude, totally. And I love, so how important is natives? Because I know natives are important to you, but here we are in 2024. Really, like, what is your take on that?
The natives and the non-natives are here.
Yeah.
So we
And the
have,
invasives or whatever.
you
The
know,
non-natives.
they're here. I got it. You know, I can name 3 of them around us, right? They're already here. So we have to not make the problem worse. Okay? I'm gonna be real conscious when I talk about this, you know, because this is what I do, right? We need to be able to not make the problem worse without going to these extreme measures to remove. We're so focused on, like, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year just here in Florida, let alone around the country, removing invasive plants. Now, mind you, we do believe that invasive plants are basically the largest causal factor of extinctions around the world, right? Whatever that, whether that's invasive species from plants or animals or otherwise. You know, we talk about like the chestnut here in America. We were just having a conversation in North America here, that the chestnut was the most populous tree on this continent in the southern U.S.
Wow.
until, like, I believe just into the 1900s, and then it was gone. It functionally extinct in like 30 to 40 years because we brought an exotic food source that we liked, the Chinese chestnut. It had, I think it was a beetle in it, I believe, and it destroyed. Like, every time you think about a pine and an oak, you know what I'm talking about? Every time you, yeah, of course. Every time you think about a pine or an oak, dude, you see a chestnut there, and that's what it used to look like. And like, that's food.
Wow.
You know? There was a food source all over this entire, you know, continent that was so plentiful, so much chestnut that would have been harvested every year. I think one of the things I recall is one of the Bartrams, talking about the native Seminoles here, calling them giants because he said they were huge in comparison to him and his European counterparts. And I think that's incredible to imagine that most of their entire food source at that time was wild. It was native, right? Like, whoa, you know?
So you're saying the indigenous people were giants?
Apparently that's what they said, yeah.
That's right.
Right.
People don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
The people, there's a bunch of accounts where like ships would pull up and they'd be all really, really tall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting you brought that up, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were eating wild foods, you're saying?
That's it, yeah. There was very minimal cultivation. Of course, now, mind you, when I say cultivation, like, they were working with the ecosystem. And at this point, with like Tierra Negra and the Amazon, they believe the Amazon was cultivated by the natives down there, which is, you know, again, such an incredible, wow, how, what?
There's so much that we don't know about our history. Like, this whole place could have been...
Yeah. For sure.
Like you know, like really productive and beautifully. We were really tuned into nature. Mm-hmm. We weren't disconnected like we are now.
Yeah.
As a society, it's interesting to think about. Imagine a whole society who knew how to tend the land. That's what it was.
Everybody, yeah.
It was awareness. It was some sort of, but then we forgot it. What do you think happened? Do you think it was like purposely like tried to shoved under the rug?
Bro, that question though. I mean, I would say that it was, I would say the few were motivated to control the many for resources.
Wow.
If I was to try to not
And that's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Permaculture is literally about not perpetuating that, what you were saying, and bringing about more resources.
Yeah.
With God's creation.
There's so much here, and there's enough for us. Okay, past to present, present to future. We've got to, you know, we got to move forward. You know, we can't just. It's hard. You know,
I go macro a lot, so yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's so easy to do that though, because like, wow, what did we do?
Look at this cypress swamp.
Oh, beautiful, gorgeous out here.
Thousands of years to develop.
And now we're here. They still don't really know why cypress knees exist. Science has so many different, they're like pretty freaking sure they know why, but they're still like, there's a possibility of other things. I think that's amazing that science is still like, oh,
it's for alien movie Hollywood
something.
Sets.
Yeah. It was for somebody. Well, I forget what somebody said. It was for stubbing the feet and knees of large dinosaurs to not mess up the trees. You know, which I think is so funny. I don't know. Who knows if that's true or not.
They say it's to hold the water over the to adapt, but.
Yeah.
It's still magic.
There's still, that's what it's still magic either way. Yeah, exactly. Thinking about past to present, present to future, as far as like the implementation of native plants and such, you know, I realized that we need to not make the problem worse, and we need to try to make it better. But I think, you know, spraying entire forests to then try to plant them back with natives may be more detrimental than it is beneficial, because nature will always win. And
it's true.
every,
We need to come to that conclusion. Thank you.
you know, and I,
because I see them spraying all my Riverbend Park with the Roundup too, and I think this doesn't make any sense.
you know, it's
So
a
how
little
do- what's-
counterintuitive.
Bro, thank you for saying that. What's the solution? Because that's a
Okay.
big, if that's not the solution,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't say it is. And of course, I can't be, you know, I can't try to say that I have the 100% solution. But in my perspective, from my experience in the field, you know, over a decade now, just kind of being in and out of it, that we need to plant back. We need to use the ecosystems that are easily accessible. Like, for example, shout out to like one of my favorite authors, Doug Tallamy. Great books, kind of got me into it way back when. And I actually just met him at an event I was working at here, doing native design a couple months ago. Got a book signed, my old book from when I was like 18, 17, you know, been a while. It's really cool. Talks about, he has an organization called Homegrown National Park. And the reason I bring that up is to say that they're focused on taking, there are over 40 million acres of green grass lawns cultivated in this country alone. Okay?
How
That is
much?
40 million. That is more than any crop that we grow. Wow. By far.
So like, that's interesting you frame it that way. There's 40 million acres of grass, lawns, that we're paying people to fix the sprinklers and the fertilizing it and the runoff. What a mess.
The pollution, yeah, the runoff, no, not good.
So interesting. So what is Doug Tallamy said? Homegrown National Parks?
Yep, it's one of the organizations, wrote several books as well, really great author, an entomologist by trade, really great speaker, great teacher, kind of pushed this a lot, you know, and I've worked with the Florida Native Plant Society for years, and FANN, which is the Florida Association of Native Nurseries. They do great work out there as well. Like, shout out to some of these really awesome people.
Florida, amazing. So what is so those organizations, like, what is their mission? What are they out here doing? Like, what's right, you were getting to it.
They're looking to restore and conserve native plants by any means, and I agree with the necessity, and I'm there for them, and I love the organization, and I work with them, and I will continue to work with them and support them. They're one of my favorites. I just realize that I think we are starting to understand that we're fighting an impossible battle against a natural process that has colonized the world, because everything was native or invasive in a different place at some point in our entire planet's history. Back billions of years, everything was non-native at some point. You know, like, they think about, we're all non-native here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
people talk about that all the time.
You know, we're from here.
So
not really.
So dude, it's interesting because some people have a different thing. Yeah, like, some people think about it where, like, you're not from here, I'm from here, you're not. But you're saying, if you really trace it back, we're all just, by the way, we're all meant to be here.
Yeah, because we're here.
Because we're here.
Yeah.
Amazing. So interesting. Because a lot of people in these organizations say, do away with all these plants, only plant these. You're saying, because what you're saying is interesting. The closer you get to it, it's nuanced. Yeah, beautiful.
It's definitely nuanced. I would just say that we need to stop making the problem worse. Right.
Step one.
Yep. Which is like that. And I think that's where, like, I will say, you know, sometimes in the realm of permaculture, like, we are sometimes planting highly invasive plants, you know, and sometimes people put bamboo in willy-nilly, you know, or, you know, there are a lot of other examples. I won't get into a whole bunch of specifics, but I can just see that sometimes we forget that, you know, we're trying to control the ecosystem rather than the stewardship, the management, the working with it together, over just the do what I want, when I want, whenever I want, forever, and I'm gonna rip everything out that's not there. And so working
conquistador style.
Yeah, for real.
Right.
With
Because
our
that
plants.
is, by the way, people still have that mindset with our land.
Yo.
They still do it.
And with each other. You know, it's
Whoa.
That's a tough, that's a whoo. Yeah, man.
Let's talk about it.
Just trying to work together and collaborate, man. Just trying to adapt and understand each other and come to points of agreement. You know, again, I think we should have bottom lines. Like, don't plant invasive, for example, just talking about the context here, like don't plant invasive plants, but also like I'm not gonna hate because you have some bananas in your backyard because you're feeding your family. You know, there is absolutely a balance with those two things we need to find. I just, with all the things, it feels like we have either become apathetic to it or we are trying so hard to like turn back the clock that we are losing the adaptability and the progress we could be making in the present toward whatever goal we want to have. Because if we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars ripping out invasive pepper and coral ardesia, like what are the other things that money could possibly go towards that's a little better? Let's replant, you know, highways. Why are there so many highways without native plants planted in them? Like there's so much land that's out there that's just sitting there doing nothing. I mean, anyway.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
Be more
real talk.
strategic with it. And I think because you and I were growers and we're into this stuff, we have skin in the game. I think to answer to what you're saying, a lot of these are just government contracts that have been, you know,
awarded. Yeah.
They did not know what they did, you know, with these, you know, these trees, you know, the trees are dying and they have contracts to replace them every year. And they don't put irrigation because they know they're going to die and get more trees.
Yeah, right. True. Why would they? Yeah, if they have the money to spend, they're going to spend the money, man. I was just talking to someone about that the other day. It's like they've got to fill their contract quota. And so if they've got to do extra stuff that makes no sense and is completely unnecessary, they are definitely going to do it because they're still getting paid either way.
You know. But dude, I know what you mean. We'd be more strategic with it and collaborate with each other.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe spraying entire forests and bush hogging them like isn't the best idea. You know, I love like coral ardesia cleanups, right? Like you go out there, you strip the berries, try to stop the progress from happening. I just, you know, on the other side of that, I mean, then we start to talk about coastal development. You know, I even just, Cameron was just in there talking about hurricane design as well, and just we've continued to lose our coastlines. And you know, I was with the Sea Oats chapter in St. Augustine for a while as well, and it's definitely a tough battle on that end because so much of that is motivated by trying to restore our dunes and our coastlines and make sure that the development can stay intact along our coastlines across Florida as they continue to erode year after year. You know, and I'm from St. Augustine, my hometown, and every year we joke about how we get Jacksonville's beach and then Flagler Beach gets our beach, right? So every year one beach just becomes somebody else, and then they just move down all this sand, and then they dredge all this sand back up, do it again. And it's just they're just trying to maintain the development, and I think it's impossible for us to imagine that like we have to change and adapt and move on rather than trying to force nature into our own patterns, because it's not going to happen, whether it's invasive or native. Like they are still going to do their own things, and they're still here, and there's still a coral ardesia berry in a bird's belly somewhere that's like you're not going to get, you know. I mean, that's tough.
Hey guys, just wanted to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Urban Abundance. We help people grow food at home. And if that's something you're interested in doing, or maybe you don't know where to get started, or it's really overwhelming, but you want to grow food, give us a call today. We help you design, install, and maintain your garden. We do fruit trees, we help you with maintenance, and we just really want to make sure you're getting the result you want and you're growing food. So if that's something you're interested in, click the link below and get on your garden design phone call today. Let's get back to the video.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because our agenda hasn't been with nature's agenda. And that's what this whole permaculture thing's about. It's like, hey, like you said, nature wins in the end.
Yeah, and it does no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So that's why learning our own nature is really important as well as individuals, like what we got going on. With your business and kind of how you do your designs and you move forward with nature, what are those kinds of perspectives that you've implemented into those processes for yourself now?
Yeah, man.
You know, in your own garden, in your own designs, your own nursery.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because here you get so many perspectives. So
for sure,
it's like, you know, it's cool because some people say, Mike today was like, I don't crop rotate.
Yeah.
Some people are saying, yo, you have to crop rotate. So stuff like that, it gets you thinking about it differently, where it's so funny. The girl next to me today, she was like, the answer is always, it depends.
Yeah, I heard somebody say that. That was good.
Yeah, it's so true. We all we talked about that at another workshop. It depends.
Yeah.
Whatever, because it's true. Like, there's a time for crop rotation, there's time not, right? And he even said that it's based on the context. For me, I like to colonize those microbes, and I like to, that's what nature does. He explained it in a way where I was like, wow. So I bring that into my design for my plantings for sure. Because you accumulate it at these events, but then I go back home and then I go put it into these projects and I observe the projects. And then I learn more.
Yeah.
And then through all those experiences, you start to put more of the pieces of the puzzle together. The growing game, if you will.
And you watch it too.
Yeah, you have to.
And that's such a big part of it, bro, because people are like, yo, I got a black thumb, I just can't make anything grow. And it's just like, we kill a lot of plants too. Like,
no, totally. Well, maybe it's because
happens.
you're watching the TV.
For sure.
You're not watching the plants. It's like your kid. My kid is a mess. Maybe you're not like watching it. I don't know, not to that's like a huge analogy.
That's a whole conversation,
but
right?
It's just a focus and attention and love.
Because that definitely changes the growth of it in any endeavor that you look to accomplish. Yeah, you've got to make sure you put in that time, and plants are something that requires that. And of course, nature does its own thing by itself. But I am 100% in the belief that we are, in large part, here to tend to this. Not to take advantage of it, not to destroy it, not to manipulate it. We are supposed to work with it and be a part of it. I mean, I would say that's a huge part of my understanding. Our purpose for being on this earth is to work together and tend it and keep it healthy and maintain it as if it is our garden rather than our toilet.
Something to not be proud, or to not be grateful for, or not respect.
Something to be proud of.
Ooh, something to,
yeah. I mean,
it sure seems, what you said is beautiful, man. It sure seems that way. To be co-creators.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a great word for it too. No, it really is. And I think that hits the nail on the head more than it doesn't. I mean, we are meant to co-create with this, and our choices facilitate our lives, and that is the purpose of our lives and working together. I mean, this is a whole lot of talk, and I've been through quite a bit with this myself and learned quite a bit with this myself and been to some wild places to figure this out. And I mean, I am 100% on, there is almost nothing more that we need to think about other than those things.
I totally agree. It's so funny. Everyone here, bro, is on that same page. It's
different.
Like lifers, if you will, for the, it's not a religion or anything. Like, it's not, it's more of just like, whoa, this is where we stand.
Yeah, because you kind of wonder sometimes, like, stuff gets a little culty. And that's, like, I think off-putting for a lot of people until you understand it, because it's, first of all, like, I'm not to anywhere compare that to this.
Interesting.
But I think about, like, how you're introducing it to new people, right? Because I walk barefoot, let's say. I go on barefoot runs, right? That is crazy, just like, for sure, just like, how could you ever, it's just the scariest thing they've ever imagined. And if you start there and end up with, like, I need you to drink the filtered rainwater from the sky and grow your own medicine on your porch, that you use to treat your son's fever. Like, and I just took that from like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to like, now you can save your child's life. They've been doing it for a long time. There are many other countries that still study this and use this, and it works. And on top of that, if we're talking about like medical malpractice and survival rates of different illnesses and infant mortality in this country, like, we haven't really proven ourselves with Western medicine either. Works great for a lot of things, but not for other things. But all I'm saying is that, like, just starting from point A to point B and getting people to understand this is terrifying, and it can be very off-putting. So, like, I've always wanted to kind of learn more and practice more about how we introduce this to people without making them look at us like, those are the crazy people over there.
Yo, you're exactly right. Your approach, that's the difference maker. Dude, wow. It's because a lot of things become culty, you're right? But then it's like anything. It's like religion. We just talked about it. Like, think about when the people brought up Jesus to these tribes or
Yeah,
something.
for sure.
It's like, where do you even begin? It's that whole thing, because we need to recondition. That's what they were doing, but it was with this other, I didn't even know what really happened, but they were trying to instill these new philosophies and ideas.
Yep.
How do they start? And they were like, right? So it's that same thing. Like, how do you make it where it's not just like, okay, let's have a war about it?
Yeah.
How do we integrate it like peacefully and together?
Yeah. And you think about every philosophy the whole world over, into Buddhism and Hinduism, and I mean I've studied a lot of like Taoism, and I've read every book of every religion I could find, just to kind of understand at least not every single one of them, because there are a lot of them and many people have different ideas. But honestly, like I think that's a great preface for the point, is like it is individual, and that's okay. That's all right. Again, there should be bottom lines. Don't kill your neighbor.
Yeah.
Maybe don't.
Ten Commandments.
Let's just, you know what I mean? There's got to be there. I think we've lost some of those bottom lines too, because like where disagreement doesn't mean right and wrong, because there are some limits, and I mean philosophy talks about it and goes back and forth on it in a whole bunch of different ways. But what it comes down to is that there are sort of ineffable things that we can do that are not okay, and so we need to back away from those lines. And I mean, that's not to say the world over, and we have love for everyone, and we hope that everyone is safe and sound and taken care of with everything going on in the world right now,
of course,
and all of those things are completely unnecessary in a system like this. And I think that's also where like we become, because I've done some advocacy and some lobbying, and I've worked with Congress and politics, and I know we're kind of like getting off track.
No, this is
excited,
good.
But
like how is that? Because not everybody does that. It shows you're convicted.
Dude, it's really
what is that like? Because I used to be like that too in a lot of ways. I didn't lobby or anything,
but you
learn
think
a
it
lot.
works.
Yeah, but also like I learned, hey, it's hard to inflict your will, and maybe it's not the way.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm definitely there with you on that. I feel like it becomes imposing,
What do you think about that? Do you still do that stuff? Like what?
I've done some of it in some different capacities now for some different organizations. I kind of started with, the medical situation and like medical advocacy. So insurance and rights, just trying to support American citizens who have health issues, who need help. And
vets,
then getting more to like conservation and restoration, supporting ecosystems or supporting not destroying ecosystems. And
so both of those.
I tell you what, I'm gonna say the thing.
Go for it. Yeah.
The thing is money, and we just don't want to talk about it. We don't want to think about it. It rules. It rules the game. We can't ignore it. We need to stop arguing about it. We need to just accept it, understand it, adapt to it, and work to change it, because it doesn't.
How do you do? Because to me, that's pretty glaring, whatever the word is. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Money, because it's like anytime I try to push projects through too, like, hey, let's save this area, let's do this at this school, let's do this. Oh, we don't have funding. There's not. It doesn't serve our business model. We can't exploit more of that. We can't. You're right. How do we get past that, where our new focus isn't money, but it's to help steward the land?
It's a tough question, dude. Those are the answers, right?
I know it's something you've been focused on, or else you wouldn't be out there caring about it.
It's what I'm doing. I mean, and I've worked with several organizations. I realize, I kind of haven't even introduced myself, but like I'm with the University of Florida now, studying horticulture. I worked in several labs. I work for a native landscape architect as well. I've worked with several different companies, done permaculture design and restoration and conservation, and I've been on nonprofit boards and helped advocate and gotten awards, give talks around the country and around the state, and worked with nonprofits. I've really been it's been a long journey getting here, and all of this experience has really brought me to understand, at least from again my experience, the way that this has come to work on the bottom scale all the way to the top scale. And so seeing on that level, you can't blame them for not having the money, because money is tight. going to Congress, there was a conversation I had. We were in the Senate, not the House. We were in the Senate, and we were having a conversation. You know, we're all up in there in our suits and ties, looking good with these big organizations, having conversations. And there's actually a picture of the moment, and like it's cool to me that, you know, at the time, she got a picture. One of the people we were working with got a picture of the moment where I shook his hand, and one of the senators shook his hand. He looks me in the eye and he says, "Wayne, we don't pass laws based on merit." And so what he was trying to say, as politically correct as he could, because what we were doing was trying to essentially advocate for better medical processing, getting people care faster, making sure that they get what they need, that it's more affordable, there's limits on what they can charge, et cetera, et cetera. And there's plenty of study, and this is why he brought it up. There's plenty of study to show that the faster you get someone healthy and the more money that you give them initially to get them back up and running, the less money you spend on future surgery and therapy, whatever's required, and the more money they can then, once they're healthy, put back into the economy. So there's a bunch of studies.
Because they're healthy. Makes a ton of sense.
They can buy houses and have kids and start businesses and work for somebody and whatever, right?
So
Taxes.
This senator shakes your hand and says, we don't, and you had all it spelled out for them. They said, hey, this is better. It doesn't matter.
Still not enough money. And so that's the point, is he was trying to say as politically correct as he could, like, we pass laws based on the financial benefit to us. And it was just, I was like 20 or 21 at the time, you know, working with this huge organization. Like, I was doing so much, getting ready to go back to college again. And it was just a kick in the, you know, absolutely. I walked out the door and I was like, wow, okay, you know. So I'm going to come back with as much money as I can find from my community, and we're going to change things ourselves, because that is absolutely the only way that anything gets done now.
Bro, interesting. It's a lesson we gotta learn. Dude, I learned it on the road. I had no money at one point and I wanted to do certain things. I said, this sucks. And I think, you know, and that's where permaculture and all these things come into play. It should be, and that was my talk at this event, turning your passion into abundance. It should be abundant. We should have resources. We should be able to buy these lands and not let them become exploited and develop.
Dude, as they develop everything, bro, every time, I mean, you're from Florida as well.
Dude.
Every time I drive around the corner.
Yeah, and I mean, I see it now, especially right now. There's a big turnover going on with the boomer generation too. All these businesses and farms and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, man, we really have to step in and like keep a lot of these traditions going, save a lot of these businesses, save a lot of these lands. It's a really important time, instead of like selling out and just being apartment Netflix people.
It's so hard for us to get there though.
Yeah,
because
why?
of the money. Because of the money. It's like,
the developers have money.
You know,
contracts are there. The government wants to keep it going.
It's so much money. You know, it's just these.
Everyone here knows. But by the way, there are good things going on. But like, let's bring it back. But the people listening, they probably totally understand. They relate to us.
You know, they totally get it.
Someone bought this land though.
Somebody, exactly.
It was an orange grove, you said, right?
Well, it was worked through with family. So it was like family, and they connected and something and got great deals and worked together. And, you know, so this was something that was a very beautiful opportunity for them. And so that kind of is the context for saying this, is that like those opportunities, for example, like buying businesses or being able to work with business owners. Average age of the American farmer is like 57 right now, 58, I think. And thousands of farms go under every year, right? These are USDA stats. Every year, farms go under.
Less farms are every year.
Yep.
Less farms every year.
Less farms every year, and more people being born. So what does that mean that we have to do? I think we need to work with buying these farms and connecting with this and bringing this money back into our community and using them for the things that actually matter to us. Because when you talk and you vote and you go to your senator and you have conversations with your county commissioner, you aren't going to see the changes that you believe should happen. And if you're collaborating with the community, like, it just takes so long. And I think at this point, you know, the world over, and, you know, everything that's happening in our situation in this country right now as well, no matter where you're coming from, both sides, we are fed up because it's just about money. It's not about us. And we need to accept that, right? I'm big on that point,
live
you know?
Live in reality.
Live in reality, but move with idealism. So big. Right?
keep that vision in mind, exactly, but know where we're actually at.
Yep.
And that's about reaching any goal, right? Know where
Absolutely.
you actually
Got
are
you.
at and be honest about
Awareness.
it. Dude,
Huge.
so good, man.
Yeah.
I love that answer. And by the way, so bring that money, resources, whatever you want to call it, bring it back to our land. Stop stripping our land of fertilizers and shipping it to who knows where. Stop.
Phosphate money's coming in again. Yep.
Stop shipping in factory food farms. Support the local farmers, man.
The local farmers, the local businesses, the local makers. I mean, we have every. I was listening to actually a UFC fighter,
Okay.
Bryce Mitchell. He was on a
Is
podcast
that the
the
guy
other day.
who
He's
is the rancher
the
guy?
farmer. Yeah, dude.
I
cool,
love this
man.
guy.
Stoked, bro. Just because I was like, man, I identify with that guy. I was like, whoa, that's awesome. You know, because that's I'm in.
Shout out Bryce Mitchell. That guy is cool.
Love it, bro.
He just speaks his mind. He doesn't care.
Totally straight up. And as someone who's like also a martial artist and has fought and is looking to fight again as well, like and compete, that's just something that's really, it was cool to see the connection between those two things. He was talking about the idea that like he wants to be able to adapt and have these systems on his property and develop this community, because once you have those things, you no longer need money. Money becomes unnecessary when you have all the water, all the food, all the fuel, all the electricity, all the transportation. Like you have all the entertainment, you know, the bread and circuses that we have everything that we need when you have that system installed. So money is no longer necessary. So for me, that's been like such a big part of, you know, and I could get into that too.
By the way. And by the way, that's what brought me to this whole entire movement. Dude.
Same.
We came full. This is if we just captured that out of this whole conversation, it's to be able to not need money, not be a slave. Really.
Yep.
Like,
and give it back and be able to give it back. And I feel like that's kind of where a lot of us, I think, have lost our focus though, because we've become. It's so easy to become. I think all of us do it naturally. It's easy to become focused on the money.
Money oriented. Yeah, I mean, as you get into your professional career, yeah. And by the way, I'm talking to myself now because I
got to remind myself.
I'm trying to really manifest that in my life. But dude, it's so exactly what you're saying. That's what brought me here. And when Bryce Mitchell talks about that, exactly,
I was like, oh shit.
It's like, he's right, and I want the same thing. And it's not to be like, F you world. You're right to share it. It's to be like, hey, I'm actually full. To say like I'm actually full.
I can take care of myself, and then I can take care of you, and I can give away, and I can support, and I can love. So like even the point earlier, I can't blame the family that can't always afford organic food. I got it, but I can have a problem when we lose $3 trillion of government funding in 4 years. When I mean
it's like, okay, now we have there's eggs coming tomorrow. There's all those things.
It's still there. Yeah,
it's so powerful. You're right. It's powerful.
Yeah, we're getting there, and I think we're getting there. One of the owners of the farm, one of the stewards of the farm, she was talking about something I had never heard for agritourism and ecotourism. She was talking about regenerative agrotourism. So agrotourism and tourism in general that is bringing back to the communities you're traveling to and supporting the ecosystems you're in. And there's an organization apparently, but there's a mindset that's developing, trying to understand like how we can bring that money back to the places we're at, both investing in like beneficial tourism and systems as well as supporting the ecosystem, providing food, yada, yada.
So good.
Yeah.
And by the way, tourism's a huge industry. People come to Florida, there's millions of people going to Disney every day.
Yep.
Why not tens of thousands of people going to millions of people?
Something a little more focused, yeah, dude.
Going to decentralized operations, farms. This place is beautiful.
So beautiful. It's 66 acres, which is like so much. I mean, some people just can't, my partner right now is from New York, Brooklyn. And that is a whole different world down here to her as well. I mean, she's been here for the first time too, and it's so much, of course she's with me and we're on the same page at this point, because that's what I do, and It's been really cool.
She's into it.
Yeah, dude, but it's also
right,
been cool.
It's not Brooklyn.
Yeah. And it's been cool to see like a first person view, kind of close up of like a first time with this and being like, this is so amazing. Like, why is this not, why is this not the system?
Beautiful. That's why I come back to give back and all those things, because I could just hide away and go work in my nursery or whatever. But yeah, man, what do you think? Like, that's why I love events like this. It's so powerful.
I think we have to definitely bridge the gap between like the capital T, them, and us. And I wouldn't say I know how that can be done. But I feel like the people.
Who is them? That's the big question, right? Capital T, them.
Yeah.
But like, aren't we all? Because I think about it too. A bunch of these people, don't they just grow up like us?
That's what. Again, yeah, dude. I'm just like you. I think that's the empathy in both of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They all have moms too.
You know. So
That's how
somewhere they were
that's how
all
I
like,
see it.
I mean, maybe they were silver spoon fed by, royal families from,
Sure.
maybe, right. Okay, cool. That's a whole different,
Different.
right. All right. Your families are billionaires. Yeah. I mean, every single one of the billionaires got pretty solid loans from their parents, you know? Like,
No, all that stuff's true. Yeah,
totally got it.
All that.
But like,
Maybe different value systems, entitlement, shortcuts, all these things. That's real.
Absolutely.
But also, aren't they? We all live in the same world. We all
And
breathe the same air.
And they can benefit from it just like we can too. So I kind of wonder, like, is it? I do sort of. Okay, this is an interesting philosophy. I think about good and evil, and if you were to draw a line, where would the line be drawn? And personally, what I've come to is selflessness and selfishness. Right. So if you imagine anything to be inherently good, you find selflessness in every aspect. There's one way you can look at it where it inhabits selflessness. If you look at everything that you can imagine that's inherently evil, every single thing that comes to mind, all over, every single thing is selfish, right? So the community is the way to solve that problem. But I think like they separate themselves from us so they don't feel selfish.
Of course.
But clearly they are.
Wait, brother, this is so good. It's one of the best things that's ever been said on this, probably.
Gotcha.
Dude, selfishness and selflessness. It's so true.
Yep.
That's why I saw so many of these people who really live the way of whatever Christ consciousness, like Franciscan,
Buddha and Krishna. Yep.
They were all. It was all about serving others.
Bro, and I grew up in a Baptist household as well. I went to private school my whole life. I won Bible memory competitions for the state when I was a kid.
Did you really?
Like, I very much was.
Wow.
And I've studied every religion, and the reason I bring that up is only to just remind everybody that like Jesus was homeless.
Wow.
For a large portion of his life.
Wow.
He was supported by his 12 friends that hung out with him every day. He was supported by people who gave him food that he made more of to give to other people, right? If you bring these things down to their real base, I mean, there's a part of at least the Christian religion in the Bible that there's 3 or 4 books that if you just got that, into John,
Wow.
those things are so, beautiful.
That's so important.
He
didn't have money.
He
didn't have riches.
But he had everything he needed.
But he had everything he needed. Wow.
Real talk. But he lived a selfless life.
He had faith, bro.
Yeah, that one. Woo!
Talk
about that.
That's what gets you through every day. Think about every bad seeming moment of your life. And you kept the faith and you got through it.
Man, that's one I, when I used to.
Bro. Wait, dude, it's so good because everyone out there's got to hear that. And by the way, Buddha too, you're saying he started as a prince, right? He had everything ever.
Yep.
Right? I think.
Yep,
I don't know
absolutely.
stories like
Yep.
it. And then he left that.
Yep.
And went on the hero's journey.
Gave everything away and went to go sit under a tree. Yeah. Which is like, why? And yet we all look up to that and aspire to that. I mean, I believe Jesus says something along the lines of, if you are to love me or follow me, you must be like me. And that seems a little clear. You know what I mean? That seems pretty.
Yeah.
That seems pretty.
Must be like me.
Right. So and if you were to do that, I think a lot of people would be very unhappy. Very, at least that claim, Christianity, and I claim all. Right. They are all. They're all connected. It's all the same.
Yeah.
They're all very much in the same path and pattern. Dude, you talk about faith. I think having faith in just the possibility in each other and the connection between it all. If you use nature and God almost interchangeably, they work out really well. If you try to separate it and understand the two, we're all a part of it. It's in us. It's out of us. I mean, Father,
we're
Son,
God is
Spirit.
God. Wait, wow.
Yep. I mean, they work fairly well together.
God and nature is interchangeable.
Fairly.
I love that. Yeah, and people say love too is God. But
There you go.
isn't this nature's loving on us all day?
That's an interesting consideration, talking about love with nature, right? Because nature is also very, I like the forest fire analogy, because in the end, I think the growth is the purpose as well. If you were to add another purpose to that, it's the fact that we're meant to grow one way or the other, the root, the crown, the bark, the roots. There's a lot that's going on with a tree that's growing in many different directions, and we're supposed to be growing and working together. It's like that's really, to me, it's a beautiful, simple way to look at it.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
For sure. Or you are already dead. I mean, biology, I think, says it's one of the requirements of a living being. It's growing. Yeah, dude.
Yes.
No, selflessness is where it's at, bro. It really is such a, and
Wow.
I will just kind of mention one thing, thinking about talking about faith and thinking about my health situation and where I've come from. And I'll just sort of quickly go over that. I've suffered and died. I've actually died.
Wow.
I've actually gone and come back to life. I was on chemotherapy for 17 years, dozens and dozens of pills, multiple different chemotherapies at the same time. I've seen the most brutal health situations and treatments, and that you can, some really gnarly stuff. And one of the things that has definitely brought me is to realize how much we are a part of it and how connected we are with this whole system, and I have, this is quite a thing to say, but I'm not going to get too much into the opinion of it. I have gone to the other side and come back, and we are definitely all the same. All of it. We are all a part of it. It is all the same. We are all connected. The heaven and the hell is the good and the evil. The good and the evil is the matter and the antimatter. The black is the white, and the white. And they all are required to work with each other. I mean, it's Taoism. It's the Tai Chi symbol. I forget the word, but in any case, it's a beautiful thing to see. And permaculture brings all of that back around, which for me was such a big part of taking that experience and that pain and suffering and that knowledge and that faith and moving through it and coming back to where I am now and surviving. Because when you and I met at the Permaculture Convergence, how many years ago? I was about to start in college. I was about to change medications. I was still, on the throes of death as well, very much so. And now, finally about to graduate from UF next week.
Congrats, bro.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Wow.
Looking at a new position with a new company as well, potentially moving again. It was never possible that I was going to live outside the house or go anywhere, let alone make it to these events.
Wow.
And community is what makes that possible. So again, from earlier, from the bottom to the top, it's community working together in every system and every part of that journey. And I feel like that's the thing that we need to remember and not lose. And permaculture has all of that inherent in the principles, right? Working with natives, working with the ecosystem, working with each other, sustaining regenerative systems, it's all a part of it. And so for me, I just wrapping that up and kind of understanding what that looks like, coming from dying and recognizing the connection to all, going to the other side and coming back and seeing, wow, we're one with this. And then we're one with everything around us, and each plant and each species and each being we're one with. And if we can empathize and understand and move forward with effort to grow together for all, there's absolutely nothing we can't accomplish. And I mean, what we do,
community, we're being guided, we're guiding each other.
Yeah, right? What we do is so big, dude, so important. So if you can, come grow plants,
Yeah, everyone's welcome, man. Dude, so good,
yeah,
man.
Got you.
Thank you. I'm glad we did this.
Glad we got to chat for a little bit.
We were gonna catch up regardless, but I'm glad we did it on the pod, man.
Yeah, dude, that was a good vibe. We're definitely gonna probably go catch up as we continue to walk and finish up the festival here, dude. But much love. Thank you for having me on. Always happy to share the love and the vibes with the people. We got a lot going on, and we're both gonna keep growing and showing because I know we're enjoying the journey.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Is there anything else you want to share with the people?
Sharing with the people. Plant native plants, take good care of yourselves, and remember to look out for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, for sure. That's it, dude.
Yeah, man.
Vibe.
Dude, so good. Thanks for coming on, man.
Gotcha. Thank you for having me, Jack. Much
Yeah.
love, man.
Yeah, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Much love.
Hey guys, another awesome video. Thank you for watching and all your support. Hey, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button down below if you haven't already. It goes a long way. We'll see you in the next one.